Welcome back. We're live on 5 with the Right Stuff. Now, I don't know about you, but doing that seems like an easy way for Ringo Starr to have earned 10 million quid. However, way back in the midst of time, in the early 60s, when I was knee-high, in fact, I wasn't even born, I can safely say at this time, when they were recording, the Beatles recording Love Me Do, George Martin wasn't happy with Ringo Starr's performance, so he got in a session drummer called Andy Wright, who signed a form, collected his £7 fee, and is the drummer you hear on Love Me Do. The rest of the Beatles, though, all the Beatles that actually did record, including Ringo, later, well, they're going to be making 10 million quid from this new album alone, their sort of greatest hits, all their #1 singles together. But poor old Andy Wright, he still just gets his 7 quid, nothing more, nothing less. It makes me wonder whether you have ever just missed out on the big time, whether fame, fortune and success has been just out of your grasp. If only, if only. If only. Well, Kate Ness has been asking a few Jersey locals if they thought that poor old unfortunate drummer Andy Wright should have got a little slice of the cake.
Yes, Matthew. Well, the question we've been putting to people here in sunny Jersey is, should the Beatles give a share of their royalties to the drummer Andy Wright?
If he was involved in the making of the record, I don't see why not. He should be. He should get some royalties, yeah.
No, if he was just a session musician, I would have thought, you know, the permanent member of the band would get the royalties.
Is it fair that Andy Wright should get a share in the Beatles' royalties?
No,
Why is that?
because he didn't write the songs, so he didn't go out and write the songs and he shouldn't get a share.
But it's already been paid £7. I think that was what they agreed at the beginning, so more or less they already got paid for it.
Yeah, give him the money, definitely.
It's a possibility, I suppose, if he has worked for him some of the time. But then again, if most of the success of the Beatles came after he had left, well, then I wouldn't think he'd have anything to say.
So, some people said that Andy Wright should have a share in the Beatles' enormous success. Others felt that for a drummer, he'd already been overpaid. Back to you, Matthew.
Thanks for that, Kate. James was just saying that last geezer looked like Bergerac's father-in-law. For those of you who've never...
Jersey.
Now, joining me on the line is Carlo Little. He used to be a drummer with, wait for it, the Rolling Stones, until he mentioned a fella by the name of Charlie. Hello, Carlo.
Oh, good morning. Hi.
Good morning. Do you feel any sympathy for the likes of Andy Wright and other session musicians who they lay down the music but don't get any money?
Well, you see, I did those sort of things years ago, and you do a session, they give you a chance. Do you want part of the act in a fee if it makes
Right.
it, or do you want a session fee? And you take your choice. But even so, I still think it wouldn't hurt them to, you know, sort of cough up a few quid later on if it does get that successful. I mean,
Mick and Keith
I mean, that part of the record is there for all time,
Absolutely.
forever, for everyone to hear.
Why, Carlo, why are you no longer the drummer in the Rolling Stones? Are you mad?
Yeah, probably. I'll just briefly go over my story. I'm a rock and roll drummer from the 60s. I was with a group called the Cyril Davis Rhythm and Blues All-Stars, working the London clubs. The blues, R&B just became big all of a sudden. And a group of lads used to come and watch the band, and they were the Rolling Stones, Mick, Keith and Brian. And they admired the band tremendously. Used to come and watch us at the Marquee, etc. Followed us around at various gigs, and used to come up in the interval, ask us for advice, tips about the music, etc. And they didn't have a drummer or a bass player at the time, just the three of them, and they said, will I help them out on some gigs, which I said, yes, okay. And I've done a few gigs with them, and everything was quite, you know, going okay. And then Brian, who was the sort of leader, spokesman of the band, said, will you stay? And I said, well, I don't think so, because I really need to earn a living, you know, as a professional musician.
I need to earn a living.
I tried Charlie. And maybe it's the biggest mistake of my life, but I don't look at it that way. I mean, who knows who's...
Do you regret it, though? I mean, looking
Not
back,
really,
you'd have been a multi-millionaire.
Yes, but also I could have been dead if you think about that kind of lifestyle that, you know, the rock sort of stars go into with the fame, the fortune, the drugs and all that. And I've got a nice lifestyle now.
Well, what do you do?
Alive.
What do you do now?
Well, I went to... I got invited to Mick's 50th in Paris. They cancelled Wembley and all the UK dates because of the tax law had changed in the middle of their tour, and invited me to Paris, which was the nearest venue to England. And I came after, you know, seeing how they sort of, after 35 years, they greeted me with open arms and They're
that's
just
nice.
Great bunch of lads still down to earth. But
Carlo, have
bunch
Mick,
of millionaires.
Carlo, it's James O'Brien, thanks for joining us. Have Mick and Keith ever sort of shown their appreciation of your help in the early days in any financial way?
Not in any financial way, but I've got my own band now, and I've decided to form my own band and I'm doing a CD, and they're helping me out playing on the CD.
That's
Keith,
cool.
That's brilliant.
Keith and Ronnie and Jeff Beck and people like that, Long John Baldy, they're all on the CD, and that'll be coming out soon, hopefully.
Excellent. Carlo, will you do us a favour, mate, and just stay there, because we're going to get some calls in from the viewers here, and I just want to see if any hard luck stories can bring a tear to your eye that we might hear today. Stay with us, Carlo.
Okay.
Okay, we've got Bob from Portsmouth. He's
Morning,
on line
Bob.
3.
Good morning, Matthew. How are you?
I'm very, very good. Everyone's very concerned for my welfare, but I'm fine, thank you for asking. Now, what about your hard luck tales or your near miss?
Well, my near miss was we were fortunate enough to be in a band at the same time as the Beatles and the Stones, and we were called the Cresters. And we were given the same opportunity to do the tours in Germany and France and all that at the same time. But the reason we turned it down, I was the oldest one, and I didn't have a regular type job. I was the drummer, and all the rest of the guys in the band were apprentices in the dockyard, and they didn't want to give up their apprentices and take that chance.
So you could have been the other Beatles, the other Rolling Stones.
Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, we was as good as them as far as I was concerned. We would done all the pubs and clubs in Portsmouth back in the late 50s, I should say.
What about, did you ever, Carlo, are you still there, mate?
Yeah, I'm here, yeah.
Did you ever hear of the Cresters?
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I mean, there were so many bands coming out of that sort of era. You know, there was thousands. Everyone was joining in a band.
But you can definitely remember the 60s. You're not just having us along there. Listen, stay there. Thank you for that, Carlo.
Okay.
Let's try our order.